Let's get it Star Wars. Let's get it Star Wars in here. Let's get it Star Wars. Let's get it Star Wars in here.
A small rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio,
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Shut, one and all. Welcome back to Rebel Force Radio. So good to see you. Got a great show for you this week. Coming up, the countdown begins. We're going to count down to the premiere of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Rebel Force Radio's kickoff bash, its celebration 2022. We're going to be up on the rooftop. Tickets are available now. We've got more details coming up in just a little bit. Plus, also this week in the cantina, Jimmy Mack found him. He found the kid who met Sir Alec Guinness. We talked about it last week. It was a clip from Sir Alec's final autobiography. And he talked about meeting this kid, and they made a deal. A deal was made back in 1979. So we're going to catch up with this young man and find out what is it like to make a deal with a Jedi Knight. But first, we got an email from Jonathan. Jonathan over in St. Albans, England. And he writes to us. He says, thanks for all your work on the show. It is our #1 Star Wars podcast by a country mile. Been listening to you two guys for over 2 years now. My 10-year-old son, Salvatore, and I listen to it religiously. Wonder what Alec Guinness would think about that. Never listen to the Rebel Force Radio again. His favorite part of the week, without fail, is when you recite the "My good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack" line. It kickstarts our weekend. We say it to each other with a smile on our faces, knowing we have a couple hours of top-class Star Wars conversation to listen and digest. Would be great if you could give Salvo a shout-out. We Star Wars 24/7 with a special focus on all things Clone Wars era. Very specific. Hopefully get to see you guys at a Comic-Con in the UK at some point soon. I would love to get out to the UK. Maybe with things returning somewhat back to normal, we can do that at some point. Keep up the good work. Cheers, John and Salvo. Well, I'll tell you what, Salvo and John, thank you very much for listening to this show, and this is for you. Joining me, as always, this week and every week, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason, John, and Salvo. Hey, Star Wars fans. Happy to be back for another week of Rebel Force Radio. Yeah, we got a fun show this week, a lot of fun. And I'm sure John and Salvo in the UK will enjoy it. It is, after all, your favorite Star Wars podcast by a country mile. And you're in a whole different country. So that's just great, man. That's great that a father and son could sit around and listen to Rebel Force Radio, have a good time, have a few laughs, share a few laughs with me and Swank. The RFR Rooftop Bash is going to be the place to be. Tickets are on sale now, and that's not an April Fool's joke. Today, Jason, is April Fool's Day as this podcast goes live. And, back in the day, we used to relish the opportunity when a show would drop on April Fool's Day.
Oh, yeah.
But remember...
Yeah, I do.
Plan it out, and we would have the podcast would be presented in all Spanish, maybe one year.
That's right.
Maybe the next year would be hosted by cats. We did that. We did this, ladies and gentlemen. The show was actually hosted by cats. And then 1 year we broke the news that a Blu-ray box set for the Star Wars Holiday Special was coming, an official release. And
oh my gosh, we had brilliant artwork that Paul Bateman put together for us. It was so legit. It was unbelievable.
Legit. And I think even Lucasfilm themselves brought the hammer down on some of that.
Probably.
Some of those
spoiled
what's in goodness. But but now, I think it's just become kind of passe to host a podcast and play some kind of silly April Fool's joke. I don't get the vibe that that's really part of the scene anymore.
I kind of feel like the last 2.5 years has been some sort of April Fool's joke. I think my tolerance for like reality is so crazy now that it's like I can't deal with. I don't need an April Fool's prank.
I think for us Star Wars fans, a lot of the April Fools joking around, things like that, it all came to an end around 2013, almost a decade ago. And it was that spring when a lot of Star Wars projects were being canceled by Disney. They canceled the Star Wars 3D film releases, Clone Wars, which, really stung everyone.
1313.
1313. LucasArts itself got closed down. All of this stuff was happening like March, April 2013. And so I think that was a year where we just thought, it's inappropriate to be making phony claims on the show or playing pranks or anything like that when so much Star Wars was getting wiped out by the new owners, the Disney Empire. So that's when it all kind of came to an end. But I did look in the archives just to see if there were any sort of April Fool's sound bites or anything that stood out from back in the day. Of course, there's the Han Solo, Ben Kenobi. The show is all Kenobi. We got Ben Kenobi here with the back and forth with Han Solo. That always makes me think of April 1st.
Damn fool, I knew that you were going to say that.
Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him?
Chewie weighs in there at the end. But see, that's something to think about when you look at social media today is who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him on April Fools? And so you're going to be looking like in the morning, when you pop open that social media app for the first time of the day, usually it happens in an appropriate place, the bathroom, and you're sitting there.
What are you talking about?
And you're seeing all these announcements for, people will be still putting Star Wars jokes online.
Oh, yeah.
Kitster, a Star Wars story in production, sources say. Crap like that. That's flying all over the place today. Not here at Rebel Force.
Kenobi series canceled.
Yeah, right. Ewan McGregor storms off stage. But this one is the second clip I have is kind of a mystery to me. And so I'm just going to have you play, Jason, and we can try. I just wonder if you remember the purpose behind this particular soundbite.
All right.
April Fools.
I have no idea. I just stumbled across the thing. It said April Fools, Tauntaun Homer.
And it's amazing. I have no memory of this at all. I absolutely not. Every time I hear the Tauntaun, I think of Bill Hader, the comedian actor Bill Hader, who does a great Tauntaun.
So good.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good impersonation. I wonder if we've ever played that on the show.
I think we have. Yeah. But I don't remember the Homer. Big fan. In fact, didn't he do some of the tracks for BB-8?
BB-8? Yeah. He was involved in some of the voice
creating that
matching. Yeah.
But the Homer and Tauntaun mashup, I don't recall.
It's not ringing any bells. No. So, we have been podcasting for like 15 and a half years.
Right.
And so if anyone remembers the particular instance on the show in which Homer Tauntaun made his appearance, or is it Tauntaun Homer? I don't know. I got to find out what the purpose of that was. So I'll do some research on my own too. But I have no idea what the hell that.
Wow. I don't know. All right. As I said earlier, the countdown has begun for
Kenobi!
I am all about Kenobi right now. And I was thinking about it a lot the other day. And I found myself getting inspired. You know, those inspired moments I get.
Oh, yeah.
So
you don't want to be around for those, folks. You don't want to be around for those.
Oh, man. It's just, you know, the smell of all of the concoction burning is just, it's crazy. So I went down into the RFR
like that.
I went down into the RFR Sound Lab, and let me present a mental image for you. Yeah. It's just picture Grandpa Munster going down into his dungeon. That's me going into the Sound Lab. I lift up the plank, all the smoke comes out and stuff, and I go down there and I'm all concocting stuff, and bats are flying around. What have you. Swank loves that visual, being the biggest Munsters fan on the planet.
Next to Rob Zombie,
so
I think.
I was just struck by this stupid inspiration in the RFR Sound Lab. It's the first clip here. I don't want to say what it is.
Okay. I think I got it.
I hope you can, on the rundown which it is.
Oh, hold on. Let me look at this. There it is. I got it right here.
Okay. I just want to make sure you play the right one.
I got it.
Hello there.
Hello there. Hello there.
See, it's just silly. I just want to hear it for myself. It's not like anything that I'm going to be sending off to the podcast Hall of Fame or anything, but I just wanted to hear. But what was
did you needed to get it? You needed to get it out of your system, like you heard it in your head.
Yeah, this is what I do.
I
hear it in my head. It has to be real,
right?
So that's kind of fun, borderline clever, but what was revolutionary to me was the end. If you play it again, Jason, listen to the end, because you have Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Sir Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi, both saying hello there at the same time, and they work together so well. So can you play the Beatles one more time?
Sure.
Hello there.
Hello there. Hello there.
Boy,
I love that at the end.
You layer it's almost like they're harmonizing. They just fit together really well.
Well, I isolated it, so let's listen to it clearly without the music.
Okay.
And to me, it really shines a spotlight on how well Ewan McGregor was mimicking Sir Alec Guinness.
Do the waveforms sit right on top of each other nicely?
There's a little speed bump in the low part of hello there that I noticed, but they are actually in harmony for the majority of these two words.
Amazing.
Hello there. Hello there.
Wow.
Hello there. Hello there.
So this is what he does on a Saturday night, folks.
Sad but true. Yeah. But hanging out in the sound lab, getting crazy with these sound bites. But I always thought they were so different sounding. Like Ewan is hello there. Mm-hmm. Well, Sir Alec goes, hello there. But together they just sound like it's almost perfect harmony.
Hello there.
You know, the hello there. Can I just say, I feel like it's the blue milk of Obi-Wan Kenobi dialogue, because I don't know that it was ever meant to be a thing, right? It was just the way that Alec Guinness delivered the line. And you get all the way through episode 5, episode 6. It's not like he appears to Luke on Hoth and goes, hello there. Right? It's not his catchphrase. It became a catchphrase. It took all the way until episode 3. You went through 5, 6, 1, and 2, and finally he says it again, and now it's a thing. Now he always says it that way.
Didn't it become a thing because there was a video game and the character, the Obi-Wan character, I think it was voiced by James Arnold Taylor too.
It was
But
the
he kept
Obi-Wan
saying-
video game. Well, there was
Yeah, he would keep
was
saying
it that?
hello there all the time.
I think that there were a couple of lines because I remember I would play that game and I used to. I'm not a good gamer, and so I would just kind of like be looking around, and he would say, "I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not
that didn't
sure."
really catch on.
But I think he also would say, "Hello there, hello." Or it could have been the Rots game. Video game, but you're right. I think there's something to the video game connection where you just heard it over and over and over again. And of course, James Arnold Taylor does an amazing job. They threw it in, I think, a number of Clone Wars episodes. That hello there, but
and James himself facilitated a lot of hello there's over.
yeah,
the
it became sort of his greeting. But in terms of Obi-Wan the character, like it wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing until episode 3, but you bring up a good point with the video game. So anyway, but it is amazing the way the two of them harmonize. Whoever
they work so well together,
right?
And I'm happy all these years later to be uniting these two actors who played Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's happening here on Rebel Force Radio. It's just incredible, the power of this podcast sometimes, and the RFR Sound Lab.
Hello there.
And if you can't get enough of Rebel Force Radio, we invite you to the Rebel Force Radio Rooftop Bash, Anaheim 2022. It's May 25th, 2022 at the 5th. It's May 25th at the 5th, which is the premier rooftop restaurant and bar in Anaheim. We're going to be there from 6 to 11. Doors open at 6, by the way, guys. So come one, come all, 6 o'clock. It says right there on your ticket. Doors open at 6. The live show starts at 7. It's going to go for a couple of hours, and then fireworks in the air, weather permitting, and other factors will have to be taken into account. We can't be held accountable whether or not Disney does the fireworks. Can't hold us responsible for that.
Puppy Lando is lighting the wick. I mean, we don't have much control over whether or not the fireworks actually happen, but fingers crossed they're going to go off on schedule, and
right.
We should have a spectacular view of the fireworks.
It'll be absolutely gorgeous. Tickets are on sale now at rebelforceradio.com. Go over to the website and you can't miss it. You've got RFR Rooftop Bash Anaheim 22. You'll see the story, and you click through that story, and there is a link to buy your tickets. So make sure you get them. Make sure you get them. Scroll all the way down. Yep. Click here for tickets, and they will be delivered to you via either a PDF, and you can get the ticket on your phone. And they're moving, man. The tickets are moving. So we do have limited availability. So don't do what I'm doing with my flight. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate. Get your
nobody wins when you procrastinate. Let me just say that. Nobody wins.
Everybody gets riddled with anxiety.
Only losers procrastinate. But Jason is right, though. We have moved about 2/3 of the tickets already, so they're going faster than we even thought they would. So do not hesitate. Show no mercy. Go to rebelforceradio.com. Click on the link and get your tickets now before they're gone. This is going to be the bash of the entire week. What a beautiful venue, as we've been saying, and we're going to be hanging out with everyone, take selfies with everyone. Puppet Land will be photo bombing each and every selfie, guaranteed. And we hope to have just a great audience of maybe some notable Star Wars personalities, definitely members of the RFR Patreon community, RFR VIPs, and the Babu Freaks are confirmed. They will be there. So
the Freaks.
It's going to be a Babu Freak out.
It's going to be a real freak show. And we mean that. But look at this venue. We showed this last week, but I just can't get enough. Look at this beautiful venue, the 5th. And it's just absolutely beautiful. You've got these incredible little fire pits that are going on. And the view is, from what I understand, Jim, just absolutely spectacular.
Well, it's directly across the street from Disneyland, as we said. So you have a full view of the park and then a perfect view of the fireworks. And
I heard Kevin Lyle is going to be running a babysitting service. So if you're coming to the bash and you can't bring the kids, you just drop them off at Kevin Lyle's room. We'll have those.
Yeah. Kevin will be at the bash though, so I mean, you can drop him off in the room. That's fine. We'll have cages in there.
Oh no, who's gonna be the babysitter? Maybe Sheldon. Oh, we need somebody who's kind of disposable. One of those guys.
Disposable. There'll be nobody disposable. Everyone will be essential on the rooftop that night. And I mean, I could think of some characters from our past. I would volunteer, but I'm not bringing up all that stuff. No. So we'll all be up there having a great time. Kevin is going to be there.
Yeah.
Perhaps we'll do some trivia with Kevin, and he's always designing interesting merch and stuff. So he might have a few fun things to give away. Maybe we could coerce him into buying a round of drinks for the entire rooftop, like he did at a Lulu at the RFR Bash.
A little bigger venue with this.
Yeah, a little bit. Be like a Lulu times 4 or 5, but Kevin, he's a successful entrepreneur, and I'm sure that would be no sting to him. I say as if I'm his accountant.
Right, right.
But no, Kevin is going to be there, and he's always a lot of fun. It's a bash, so
it is a bash, and it's
fun people there having a good time.
And it's a kickoff bash too, so it's like you're not going to be, you might have traveled that day or maybe the day before, but you're not going to have been going around the convention all day long. This is the excitement around, and I think it's great when we do these that are then on the eve. Christmas Eve is always a little more fun than Christmas Day. The anticipation and everything. So it's the perfect time to hang out with Rebel Force Radio and other Rebel Force Radio listeners and, Star Wars fans. That's what it's really about.
Again, I cannot stress it enough. Don't hesitate on buying tickets because this thing is going to sell out. I'm surprised that so many tickets have moved already. Our Patreon audience had a pre-sale and they made a huge dent in the tickets. And then it went on sale to the general public last weekend, and they've been flying out the door. So, May 25th, the 5th, 6 to 11 p.m. Podcast starts at 7. Tickets on sale now. RebelForceRadio.com. Be there.
All right. So a little flashback to last week when we dropped the audio clip from Alec Guinness's memoir, A Positively Final Appearance, which was his last memoir. And you've had a storied career when you write multiple autobiographies.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So,
and when the last one is too, he's like, this is it. I got nothing more. I have no more stories after this book.
Right.
And then he went and passed away the next year later.
I know he wasn't kidding.
Yeah. He takes those, his stage direction all the way to the end. He hits his cues. He hits his marks and he's out of there.
Sir Alec.
Curtain call.
Out. Mic drop. But anyway, he laid this on us, and so see if you remember this one.
A refurbished Star Wars is on somewhere. I have no intention of revisiting any galaxy. I shrivel inside each time it's mentioned. 20 years ago, when the film was first shown, it had a freshness, also a sense of moral good and fun. Then I began to be uneasy at the influence it might be having. The bad penny first dropped in San Francisco when a sweet-faced boy of 12 told me proudly that he had seen Star Wars over 100 times. His elegant mother nodded with approval. Looking into the boy's eyes, I thought I detected little star shells of madness beginning to form, and I guessed that one day they would explode. I'd love you to do something for me, I said. Or anything, the boy said rapturously. You won't like what I'm going to ask you to do. Anything, sir, anything. Well, do you think you could promise never to see Star Wars again? He burst into tears. His mother drew herself up to an immense height. What a dreadful thing to say to a child, she barked, and dragged the poor kid away. Maybe she was right, but I just hope the lad, now in his 30s, is not living in a fantasy world of second-hand childish banalities.
Like, who would do something like that all these years later after seeing Star Wars?
Yes.
Definitely not us here at Rebel Force Radio. We heard this story last week, and I just decided to do some snooping around, and I discovered a young man named Daniel Henning. Well, first, he's not exactly 12 years old anymore. He's not 30, as Sir Alec Guinness thought he would be when he wrote his book. He's now in his 50s. He's a member of the original Star Wars generation. And I found him. I couldn't believe I found him. Daniel Henning. And the way I found him is because Daniel wrote a book called Alec Guinness Hated Star Wars, or How I Became a Famous Star Wars Fan. It's not a book that exactly has been in the spotlight at all. It's sort of obscure. Yeah. And I was surprised.
Under the radar.
Under the radar. So let's put it on the radar and let's get Daniel Henning here with us. The kid. We got the kid.
We found him. Let's step on.
Let's find out if he still has star shells of madness in his eyes.
All right, off we go. Into the cantina.
Star Wars Cantina.
Where are you going, Master?
For a drink. Sorry about the mess.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
Well, Daniel, welcome to Rebel Force Radio. Welcome to our little cantina here. Great to have you.
My pleasure to be here.
Well, I mean, the pleasure is on this side because you are about to give us your side of this story about meeting Sir Alec Guinness. And this is a first. My understanding is this is not a story that you have told yourself outside of your book. You've not been interviewed about this moment in your life. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct, yeah. 25 years or something, I didn't even know. Well, actually, for, I don't know, I guess it was like 15 years, I didn't even know other people knew about it.
Really?
That's so wild. We found the kid. Can I be a little disappointed you're not still a kid, though? I was really hoping to get the take from the actual kid, but I guess time stands still for no one. You seem like you still have the enthusiasm of a young kid in 1979, a young Star Wars fan from back in the day.
Yeah.
I love the chance to talk to fans from the original generation who experienced it the way I did in the theaters as kids of the 70s. And here we are all these years later still talking about Star Wars. But you have a lot to talk about. You actually have a story connected with Obi-Wan Kenobi himself.
Exactly.
Growing up in California like you did, running into celebrities, I mean, you're a working actor or a working actor as a young man, running into celebrities was probably something that wasn't new for you, I would guess.
I had some experiences with that. I actually, weirdly enough, I was just looking at a photograph on Facebook right before this, which is one of the instances where I had spent time around famous people. There's a man who you now know today from his sausage, whose name was Jimmy Dean. And Jimmy was a huge country singer. In fact, he had his own television show that introduced the first Muppet. Ralph the dog was created for the Jimmy Dean show. And Jimmy was sort of like my uncle. And
kidding.
his backup singers, the Imperials, I knew them. So I kind of met some people. I wasn't actually related to Jimmy, but my family was close and he loved me. And so I had spent time that way around a few celebrities. And then actually just before this whole instance happened, I had just done a TV movie with Diane Cannon. And she had been so amazing to me. She didn't treat me like, some kid that was on the set. And there were a bunch of kids on the set, but for some reason she took me under her wing. And oh, look at that! There's Jimmy. Hi, Jimmy.
Jimmy Dean. Now we some folks will remember Jimmy Dean from his role in Diamonds Are Forever, a James Bond film, Sean Connery's last, where he played Willard White. And he was sort of based on Howard Hughes. And, but yes, I, grew up obviously eating all the Jimmy Dean breakfast foods and remember my grandmother talking about Jimmy Dean.
I remember when Jimmy told me that he was leaving the music business to start making sausages. And, I laughed in his face. I mean, I was, 6 or something. But I just thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever heard, that somebody would leave, the business and go make sausages.
Wow.
And now we still hear his voice on television because he made sausages, not because he was a singer that everybody knew.
Wow. So you were around celebrity, and it wasn't something that was new to you. Mm-hmm.
Little bits. And I would say, like, to your question in relation to this, what that gave me was the understanding that celebrities were people too. And I had some tiny little access to some a couple random whatever. But like, I understood Jimmy was my uncle. He was like just a human, and Diane Cannon was really human to me. So when when Alec Guinness had the opportunity to pass in front of me, I wasn't that afraid of trying to make some kind of communication with him.
Right.
Now, Francis Ford Coppola had been amazing to me as well when I did the Black Stallion, and
you were in the Black Stallion movie, yes, directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
I didn't grow up in Hollywood in that kind of. I mean, I grew up in Oakland and Alameda, actually, and so I was sort of in the business, but not really in the business, So,
well, more in the business than Jimmy Mack and I ever were. I mean, you were in movies, and Jimmy Dean was like an uncle to you. You're hanging with Diane Carroll, and you're about to meet Alec Guinness. I mean, that's
celebrities and
Diane Cannon. I'm sorry, I said Carroll. My apologies, Diane.
Diane Carroll. She's really cool.
Yeah.
So you grew up a big Star Wars fan there as a kid in Oakland with the Jimmy Dean sausages and everything. That was you grew up as a Star Wars fan. You were a big Star Wars fan, and you saw the movie how many times the summer it came out?
Well, I saw the movie 100 times the summer it came out. And then they did a re-release in 78.
Wait. You're not kidding. You're not kidding. You saw it 100 times.
Yeah.
Okay, you said it so matter-of-factly like that. At that period of time, I mean, that had to have been some sort of record, I would imagine, if anybody was keeping track.
Well, I think it was. It was certainly before people did that. I was just nuts. So, but it was. People didn't do that. Maybe because you didn't get the opportunity, really. I mean, movies ran and then they stopped, and then you didn't get to see them. They had to be on TV if you were going to see them again. There wasn't even VCRs yet, really. So yeah, it was 100 times in the movie theater, in the Alameda, the beautiful Alameda Theater. And I saw it, twice a night and 5 times on the weekend, and for a lot of the summer. And then when it was re-released in 78, I saw it 2 more times just because, I don't know, there it was. And, I had stopped at 100 because it sounded like a good number. I knew every frame of it at that point. I didn't need to see it again. So
I would have seen it 100 times if I had access to a theater. You must have been, as a kid, it must have been walking distance for you or something to be able to go there all the time.
Yeah, it was like 2 blocks from my house and directly across the street from my mother's modeling school. So in a way, and she was a single parent at that point. And so I was basically like that. It was like a great babysitting gig. I think it was $1. I think the kids' fare was $1. And I could go in at 7 and see the 9:15 show too. And she worked till 9:30, 10:30 at night. So I would just come back to her studio and we'd go home together or whatever.
Busy day at the movie theater, son.
Yeah, and of course I knew the staff really well at that point, and they were my friends, and they gave me movie posters like that one there.
He's pointing to yes, classic circus poster.
Is that what it's called?
As a matter of fact, that is what they call it. Collectors call it, and it was painted by a guy named Drew Struzan, who is really well known for painting poster art, and he had a collaborator on that poster who just recently passed away. The gentleman's name is not on the tip of my tongue right now, but I'll try to find that and report that later in the show. But that's a classic Star Wars.
It's one of my favorite pieces of art just ever. Like, it's just such a beautiful piece of art. And I think it's so one of the things I loved about Star Wars was the old movie quality of it. And I think that's what this poster captures, is the fact that there was this movie, but there was another movie before it. Well, this is missing. That's missing the Alec Guinness on the side. That's missing the part of it that's the best, I think.
Oh, yeah. I got a little cropped version here on the screen.
Yeah. Because to me, the idea is that, there's Obi-Wan Kenobi from like a movie that was playing at that theater beforehand, and the poster got ripped down and something else got put up. And, and that said to me, talked about the history of movies. You know what I mean? And I think that's what Lucas was doing. He was trying to bring back the sort of history of serials and that. And I think that's what I think that image captures so beautifully.
Yeah, the artist's name, Charles White III, collaborated with Drew Struzan on that poster for the 1978 general release of Star Wars.
Oh, it was.
He just passed away. Yeah. He just passed away a couple of days ago.
That was the time I saw it the 2 times. That was numbers 101 and 102 were with that poster.
Well, it was just great because the film was back in the theaters every summer. Even after Empire Strikes Back came out, it was in the theater. And that made the opportunity for us kids to see it many, many times. But I know for a fact I did not come close to seeing it 100 times. That is the most I've heard of. Yeah, in one summer it came out too. That's at this point I've seen it 500 times. But
now, Daniel, when they made some changes between the releases, like for example, adding episode 4, was that something that you noticed right away, having seen it so many times prior?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm still like, what's episode 4?
Yeah, right.
To me, there's Star Wars, and then there's all these other movies that are part of that same universe. But there's Star Wars, and when I say Star Wars, I mean what you people refer to as episode 4.
Right. us people. Yeah, right. So you notice these differences then?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and there were
kids were all buzzing about that stuff. Yeah,
especially that, but well, I don't want to jump ahead of the story too much, but I haven't seen it a lot since then.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't want to tell you that now because it's the end of the story.
Well, let's just jump into the story because we want to hear about your encounter with Alec Guinness. We've heard Sir Alec's point of view of the story, and I want to hear about it from you. First question is, how did the opportunity present itself for you to meet the venerable Jedi Knight, Obi-Wan Kenobi, in person?
Well, I had been in this film that Francis Ford Coppola produced called The Black Stallion, and it had its premiere at the San Francisco Film Festival. And so I was going to the premiere of that, and then I knew it was a film festival that I didn't know anything about, frankly, because I was 12 or something, and I got the brochure sent to me, and there was the list of things that was being done. And for the festival, the opening night tribute was a tribute to Alec Guinness. And so I saw that they were having this opening night tribute to Alec Guinness, and my mom didn't have a lot of money. She was a woman in the 70s running her own business, but she knew what it would mean to me. I had already actually met Mark Hamill at a concert and had gotten his autograph and said hello, and he was very nice. And it was a brief encounter.
What concert?
It was called the Sounds of Space. It was at Zellerbach Auditorium in Berkeley. It was produced by Gary Kurtz, actually. The poster art was Ralph McQuarrie. And it was the Star Wars music, but I believe there was I want to say there's like maybe 2001 or some other space music in there as well, but it was mostly Star Wars. And Gary Kurtz produced it. I also met Gary that night as well. later, his children became very close friends of mine, much later, years later.
Wow.
So my birthday was also around this whole time. So my mom asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I said, I want to see Alec Guinness. And she,
as most 12-year-olds are wont to do.
Exactly.
Well, we could get you a clown, a magician, or Sir Alec Guinness for your birthday. What do you want?
And actually, a lot of kids might have gone for the clown or the magician, but it was just weird enough to go, give me the old English dude. Who wasn't that old, actually. When that was shot. So we went, and it was a black tie affair, and I didn't have a tuxedo, and etc. But we went. We obviously didn't have tickets in the front, but we had tickets in the back. And there was I guess a party afterwards, or a meal or a dinner or something like that. And we didn't have tickets to that. We just had tickets to the event. And I had known that Alec Guinness had some issues with Star Wars. I don't remember exactly what I knew, but I knew that it wasn't his favorite film, and I also knew that he didn't really like giving autographs. So I was like, oh, well, I mean, I'm here. My mom spent all this money. I don't want to leave down an autograph. I mean, he's Obi-Wan Kenobi. So this is where my knowing that celebrities are humans, maybe piece of knowledge came in. I was like, okay, well, he's a human. So how do I get him to do this? And I realized that if I asked him for an autograph in front of 750 people, he would probably have to say yes.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
publicly shame him into giving you the autograph, because he's like, I can't let these people see me turn down a 12-year-old kid.
A little towhead 12-year-old blonde boy who looks an awful lot like Luke Skywalker. No, you can't. You really can't say that, right?
Right.
So I stood up. It was a question and answer after this whole thing, and I raised my little hand and stood up and. And I was an actor, so I certainly was able to project my question to the stage with no problem whatsoever. And I said, Sir Alec, hello. I have seen Star Wars 102 times. And I paused because I thought when other people heard that, they were kind of shocked. And I thought that the audience might have some reaction too, which they did. There were gasps, there was laughter, there was a little bit of applause. And then actually I'm gonna push my chair back a little bit here. And then Sir Alec literally did this in his chair.
Oh, he just sort of fell back, acting like he had a heart attack or something.
Yeah. And then from here, he says, he kind of leans up to the microphone and he says, and it wasn't even my best picture.
Of course not. Yeah.
Right. So, which got another big laugh. And then I was like, oh, good. I got him warmed up. And now this is a moment, right? Like I've actually helped Alec Guinness have a great moment in his evening of, being Alec Guinness. And so I was like, here's the hammer. And I said, and it would mean very much to me if I could have your autograph. And I expected him to say, come down to the stage and just sign it there, just as he would have for whatever else.
Come here, my little friend.
That's what he said. You went running down there with a piece of paper.
Right? That was it. That was my fantasy of what was going to happen. That was how I was going to get to meet Alec Guinness, right? But instead, he pointed his finger at me and he said, I'll see you after the show.
Oh, you're being summoned to see Sir Alec after the show.
Yeah, and there was this murmur through the crowd, and I have no idea what happened after that, because all I could think of was, I'm going to go backstage and meet Alec Guinness, and everybody knows that I'm going to go backstage and meet Alec Guinness, and so so I guess the evening must have ended because we're not still there, and but I have no recollection of any of that.
Right, you were sitting there anticipating this moment.
Oh,
and you were thinking he's probably going to like become like a grandfather to me. We're going to hang. He really wants me to take me under his wing.
He'll be your new uncle, like Jimmy Dean was. He'll be making you sausages.
They like sausages in the UK.
Sure.
Sausages go well with Guinness, in fact. So, so then I went backstage, found the stage door, and went backstage. My mom and I, and they immediately let us in, and everyone knew. Like all the people backstage, they were like, "There he is! There he is! There's that boy!" That like there was, and they were obviously they had other things to do, whatever, and like, but people were hanging around, wanting to see whatever this was going to be, I guess. I didn't quite realize that in the moment, but then when it happened, I was like, oh, they were all listening. They were purposely like, oh, okay. So we're standing there, and they bring Sir Alec over to me. And he was, huge smile on his face and was lovely and charming. And the very first thing he said to me was, I feel like I should give you some of my money back.
Wait, why? I don't get it. Why would he? I feel like I should give you some of my money back. Oh, because you saw the movie so many times?
I paid to see Star Wars so many times, he feels guilty about the percentage of the money he took from me.
At least one royalty check might have been directly from you.
Jedi refund.
And I found that to be, and even in that moment, like right in that moment, I was like, that's a weird thing to say. You know what I mean? Like, and especially to a kid, that's like, it was, so it was strange to me, Nice. Yeah. It was strange to me that was his first thing, that was the first thing he thought of. The first thing he thought of was, it wasn't even my best picture. Right. And then then the money, which, and those two things, I think in his head were absolutely tied together. Like it wasn't my best picture, but I made lots of money from it. And so he was dealing with the whole art versus commerce thing,
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, I mean, he's, legendary for huge roles. And I mean, back when Hollywood, I mean, it still was, very, very important. It was in the 70s, but I mean, golden age stuff that he was involved in these huge epics. And now we would consider Star Wars now an epic, but at the time, it wasn't Bridge on the River Kwai. It wasn't right.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Right. Lawrence of Arabia.
And in the little book that I do, and on the audiobook, I talk about that the first hour of that evening were long version clips of, a bunch of those movies. And so as a kid who hadn't been able to see Bridge on the River Kwai and all the rest of that, I got an opportunity to discover who Alec Guinness as a phenomenal actor really was. Even like, Oliver Twist playing Fagin and all of that, and the Hill Mob and all of that. And if I thought I loved Alec Guinness when I walked into that room, after seeing like an hour-long, clip reel of his work, in-depth, wonderful scene work and what have you, I was in love with him as the actor Alec Guinness.
Then you met him.
And then no, he was, well, anyway, I'll tell you in a minute about that. But he so there was the money thing, and laughs, everyone around, ha ha, funny, ha ha, but I didn't care. I'm about there, and I've got my program, and and I'm ready to, maybe I even have the page ready, right? And then we chat a little more, and I don't really remember the other little things that we chatted about. Maybe he asked me how I saw it so many times or something like that. And then he said, okay, well, I'll give you the autograph, but I want to ask you something. I want you to ask you to do something for me. And I said, anything. And he said, you're not going to like what I'm going to ask you to do. And I said, anything. And he said, do you think you could manage never to see Star Wars again? And okay, so there, right?
Yeah. Boom.
Like, what?
Right. And like that was certainly not what I was expecting him to say, right?
For sure.
And again, I thought it was just going to be the moment signing the autograph, so I didn't realize we were going to get into like his psychological issues. I was
going to be his confrontation.
Come on. I mean, do I look like a therapist? And then so there was this moment, like this was a very sincere question. There was this was not a joke. The other things were made sort of as jokes, although I kind of read them all not as jokes, even in the moment. But this was not a joke. And I don't think other people around laughed either. So this was he was asking me to promise never to see Star Wars again in exchange for an autograph. I didn't understand why, but I thought about it, and I had actually stopped seeing Star Wars. Like I stopped at 100, and then I saw it 2 more times, and I was already basically, I mean, I wanted to see Empire Strikes Back and whatever, but like I'd seen it. Like I said, I knew every frame of it until George Lucas went in and kept tinkering with it.
Right.
And so I thought, well, and this is a promise, right? So can I do that? I was like, yeah, I could do that. So I said, yes. And he, laughed or smiled or whatever. And then he gave me the autograph. And he, in fact, made me promise never to see Star Wars again in exchange for it. And it actually says to...
He's holding it up here. We've got this. There it is. 23rd Annual San Francisco International Film Festival. This is the program.
And the autograph says, to Danny, great wishes always, Alec Guinness. And you have promised me not to see Star Wars again. Exclamation.
You're kidding.
It's in the actual autograph.
Can we see it? Oh, here it comes. Oh, look at that. He signed the entire top of his page in the program. And that's a contract right there.
Yeah.
That is a contract signed by Sir Alec Guinness. And you gave him a verbal agreement.
And this is the first time I'm showing it to anybody, by the way.
Wow. Look at this.
Thank you.
Man, this is history. This is real Star Wars history. Absolutely. Look at that.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, we're honored. Now, I noticed you didn't sign it, so maybe there's a loophole there that but Jim's right. There was a verbal. There was a verbal there, so
absolutely. No, I made that promise.
So you didn't burst out. You didn't burst out in tears, according to Sir Alec's account of the situation. You did. You were crying, and your mom stared down the Jedi Knight and scolded him. She scolded him. But that didn't happen. That part didn't happen.
I mean, I can obviously I have the autograph, so it's proof that happened, right?
Right.
I also just in my mind's eye, I can literally. I was taller than him even then. I can actually see the freckles on his little bald head when he bent down to sign the autograph. Like this happened.
Wait. I saw that movie. Obi-Wan Kenobi was not bald.
he was pretty bald.
He was.
It's flowing white hair.
So, and I can also confirm that you are the same kid, because I can tell we have you on camera here, and I do see the star shells of madness forming in your eyes.
Oh, look at
Alex said. Yeah, there it is. There it is. The star shells of madness forming in his eyes. Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? The story doesn't sound as bad as Sir Alec made it sound. It made it sound like he made a kid cry, and he was proud of himself for doing that too. But that didn't quite happen that way.
No, not at all. He was so lovely. He was such an amazing presence for me. He never made me feel bad. He certainly never made me cry. He made me feel happy. I was on cloud nine for months, frankly, you know, and even the question, like making me never see Star Wars again, even that was a prideful moment for me, because I had this secret pact with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
And do you remember the day you broke that pact? Do you remember sitting down and watching Star Wars after that happened and thinking to yourself, boy, I really shouldn't be doing this?
I'm going to beg to differ with you. That didn't happen.
Didn't it really?
Yeah. It happened. I suppose if you were looking at it from the outside, you could say I sort of saw Star Wars again. But in my mind, no, I haven't. So I've never seen it on the small screen. Well, first of all, I don't know why you would watch it on the small screen. It's such a movie to be seen on the big screen.
Okay.
And from 100 showings on the big screen, I can tell you that's the truth.
There you go.
So it was released twice after that. The sort of the major over the years big re-releases, and I felt like I needed to see it to just kind of, I mean, that was a major moment in my life, even though I was a kid, not the Alec Guinness, I mean, that too, but with Star Wars, right? So it was, I felt like I needed to kind of check in with these, I don't know, friends, these people that I had spent so much time with, these characters in that movie, you know? But I was very conscious of the promise that I had made. And I wanted to figure out how I could do that and still remain true to what Sir Alec asked. So my way of doing that, and again, only these two times, it was in the movie theater, and both times I left for about 10 minutes, the same 10 minutes. So in fact, I have never seen all of Star Wars again.
What are those 10 minutes you walk out on?
Oh, it starts with the boardroom scene. You know, I haven't seen it in about 4 years. Yeah, with Grand Moff Tarkin and all of that. That's sort of the boring part. I love that 10 boring minutes. So. You know,
oh my
backstory.
goodness. All right. So when did you find out that Sir Alec Guinness had recounted this story in his memoirs?
Okay, so I have a friend named Tom Royer, and I've known Tom since I was 12. I'm pretty sure he went to a couple of those 102 screenings with me. I'm pretty sure, and we have stayed friends over all of the years. And in fact, he ended up working at Disneyland for his whole career. And right before the shutdown, the last thing I did was he took me to Star Wars Land at Disneyland.
Great!
As you know, as part of our ongoing, you know, lifetime of Star Wars.
Right.
So he, so he knew the story because I told him, I probably called him that next day and said, "You will never believe what happened." And I'm sure I showed him the autograph and all that. Right. So he knew that story. But when all of that happened, there wasn't this thing called the internet. So, news and information just didn't get out in the same sorts of ways. So in 2015, I got a forward from him. I think it might have been on Facebook, or maybe it was just a regular forward with a link to an article about Alec Guinness hating Star Wars and the Star Wars fan that he made promise never to see Star Wars again. And Tom's attached note said, "Isn't this you?"
Wow.
And Well, yes, that is me, but how do they know about that? He's dead, and I haven't told anybody like 30 years. Because after a while, it was like a day-old fish story. Like all my friends knew it, and like you can't just, it doesn't suddenly come up in conversation at a dinner party. Oh, when I was 12 years old, Alec Guinness made me promise never to see Star Wars again.
Yeah, because the family's like, yeah, we know, Daniel, we know. And then he said, don't watch it ever again.
And no matter how hard I would try to slip it into conversations in college or whatever, it just didn't work.
That reminds me one time.
You might notice the star shells of madness in my eyes. Well, there's a story behind that.
Oh, is that a Guinness you're drinking? Oh, let me tell you.
Got to work it in somehow. But the book came out in 2001, I believe, after he had passed away, I think, right?
1999.
Yeah.
And I don't read biographies of actors. I've been in the business. I've been running a theater, and I'm a theater director. And the last thing I do is want to hear actors talk about what they do.
Right.
I love actors. I don't get that way. I just that's all I do all day long.
Shop talk.
So I wouldn't want to read, someone's biography, for instance, necessarily. Although I'm an audiobook narrator now, so I like it when they pay me to read them.
Right.
And and so I immediately, when I saw that it was in a book or whatever, I immediately ordered the book. And there on page 11 of his final, the last words he's going to say to the world, his final memoir, he tells this story.
Unbelievable. And you would think that this would have been, fresher in his mind when he was writing some of his other memoirs, because he wrote several. And
yeah, he wrote several in between.
Right, exactly. But he saved it until the end. Now, we spoke last week about the fact that he may have decided to put this book out and talk a little Star Wars because it had been back in the theaters, and I mean, he even references that in the book. So, it was definitely time for him to. It was relevant again, I guess.
Yes, and I think distant enough, perhaps, so that because if he was really bad mouthing it in whatever way, in his lovely way, in 1978 or 79, while the money was still rolling in, it wouldn't have looked very good,
Right.
So I think maybe 20 years later, with hindsight, he felt like he could tell the story.
The thing that surprises me the most is how well, up to the point where he says that, you began to cry and your mother, gave him what for. His recall of the story is pretty darn good for a man of his age at the time. I'm guessing
he remembered every quote,
yes,
or exactly direct quote.
Yes, and
what we said, exactly the words.
Given that he's written a number of memoirs, I'm guessing he probably journaled or had a diary, and this may have ended up in his diary.
In his personal diary.
Right.
I imagine that's what it was. I imagine that.
When you walked away with the autograph, he probably said to his assistant or whatever, well, that's going in the book.
Exactly.
Oh my!
Is your mom still around? Did your mom live to hear this story? Is she still around?
She lives in my house.
Oh, she's
out there right now.
and I bet she got a chuckle out of the whole idea of her scolding this revered actor.
Exactly. But also he said is the young boy's elegant mother. And my mom was elegant. So Alec Guinness called my mother elegant. She liked that a lot.
I'll bet. That's great. That's really wonderful. So here we are all these years later. And I mean, you don't go see the original Star Wars, but have you kept up with the franchise? Have you followed any of the TV shows or films?
Yes, I do. I've not. Interestingly enough, right? His intention, not nefariously, but was to take Star Wars from me, right? That's what that promise was. He didn't make me promise not to see the sequel or whatever, but in toto, that's kind of what happened. I have seen all of the other the other movies once. I feel like that's a little bit of my promise to him too, that I shouldn't see them more than once. I've seen some of the TV series, The Mandalorian. But I haven't, and I've seen a couple of the other movies solo, and but I haven't seen most of the TV stuff. And I certainly have not seen all of it. I mean, I'm so thrilled that this thing that was so important to me and had such a significant impact on me as a human has gone on to, change the world, really. That's super cool. But I feel like I don't feel the need to have to follow up on all of it, partially because I promised Alec Guinness in some strange way that I wouldn't.
I don't know about you, Swank, but to me it sounds like Sir Alec won. He won.
I know.
He discouraged
I think so too.
this poor kid and it still is. It's still paying dividends for Sir Alec all these years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I have an R2D2, standee from the time, but I don't have a Grogu puppet, for instance.
Wow. I have a feeling that if you never met Sir Alec Guinness, you'd probably be the third co-host here on Rebel Force Radio. Your life would have taken an entirely different path, but you were discouraged. You were discouraged. You and your elegant mom sent away, never to
right,
to watch
exactly.
You with the Star Shells of Madness and your elegant mom. It's what a story. Right? What a story. And so I recommend to all of our listeners that they check out your book and the audiobook. That's how I found you. And it's available at audible.com/RFR. Alec Guinness Hated Star Wars, or How I Became a Famous Star Wars Fan by Daniel Henning. I really enjoyed it, Daniel.
Thank you. I enjoyed telling the story, like I enjoyed going back and rethinking it, and, and also just now sort of being a human who's been in the entertainment business for a very long time at this point, trying to figure out the why he told the story that way, and I have some answers maybe, but I don't know.
Well, I think that one way to look at this is that, actors are storytellers. And I think that as it played out the way now, from your point of view, all you needed was what you told us. From his point of view, he needed a little more drama. I think, he just infused it with the elegant mom chewing him out and the boy bursting into tears. Another idea is maybe that's how he remembered it. It could have been his guilty
writer's embellishment,
or it was his guilty subconscious, having snuffed out the dreams of a 12-year-old. Now, there's it rings a bit of, the famous William Shatner Saturday Night Live sketch of get a life, will you people? And some of these, some of the actors or the creatives behind these phenomena, they worry that are they responsible for people in their mind wasting their lives, on a movie or a TV series or something. Yeah. And so I think they feel a sense of responsibility in some ways. So it could have been, I think it was probably, there were measures of I don't think it was malicious is what I'm trying to say. I think that he, in some ways, he was looking out for you. Don't waste your life sitting in a movie theater, living out someone else's fantasy.
And by the way, I mean, he was right. I mean, look at the two of you.
It's funny that you say that, Daniel. Because I was on my way into the studio, and I was told my wife, I was explaining who we were going to be talking to, and I said, "Gosh, I don't know why he would say that," and she just looked at me and she goes, "Really? You're about to go down the stairs into your basement and talk about Star Wars for 2 hours with your friend?" So So she got it right away, you know.
We might need some Alec Guinness intervention here at some point, but it's too late for us.
But I think that is what he was, you know what I mean? I think that's what he was talking about was this. In fact, he was sort of foreseeing something that really didn't exist yet. Right? Because that kind
was early on.
Yeah, it didn't. There was no. That never happened to any other movie before Star Wars. There was no this kind of massive fandom. You know, that began it all, and so, and even in 1979 there was fandom, but like I was extreme. I saw it 102 times in the movie theater,
right?
And I had my bed sheets and other things were my mother used to say that our house was decorated in early Star Wars. So but he was, I think what he was really talking about, and he projected it on me, although that wasn't who I was and I wasn't gonna have that experience, I think, in my life. But the idea that there becomes this massive fandom that turns into like a life obsession. I think that's what he was referring to. He was just talking about a guy.
He saw it coming. He saw it coming. And that's probably what unnerved him about Star Wars to begin with. I don't think he necessarily hated Star Wars, but I think he hated what it became, in his opinion. It just became bigger than the film. And I think perhaps he felt suffocated by that.
I think he felt guilty, honestly.
And guilty. Just pure guilt. Just pure guilt.
He was the only one originally making money from it. He did it as a money gig, like period. Absolutely. He did it as a money gig. And he thought it was just going to be a paycheck and no one was ever going to see it. I mean, they thought it was going to flop. So I think that when it did become this other thing, then all of that got wrapped up into it too. So he just didn't know how to process that kind of, something that had never happened before, and he's he is truly one of the great actors of all time.
And Ewan McGregor, of course, took over the role, and now he's going to be starring as Obi-Wan Kenobi in the show. Do you have any interest in seeing that?
I do, actually. I do. I'm a huge fan of Ewan McGregor, actually, and in a lot of ways that's a beautiful transition of the mantle, from Guinness to McGregor. Like, I mean, I know it happened earlier, but especially now because he's older and so I'm sure I will watch that series.
Well, I'll tell you what, if it's ever within our power to arrange a meeting between yourself and Ewan McGregor, and we could get Ewan McGregor to tell you never to watch Star Wars again, I think things would come full circle, and that would just be amazing. There'd be a whole other book in there for you. Yeah, you do have to cry. This time you actually do have to cry. And your elegant mom has to yell at him and scold him.
I mean, why not? He's playing Obi-Wan Kenobi. He could play Alec Guinness in this special edition of the story.
His quote is about my mom is, "She drew herself up to an immense height."
Oh yeah.
He was short. So that was another thing, like these tall people around him. That's partially what he's referring to in the piece too.
We'll get your book option for a film, and we'll get Ewan McGregor then to play Alec Guinness in the film. And
perfect.
Absolutely. And if I shave, I can still play me.
No, you'll still be you. You'll play 12-year-old you with the beard and everything. I got to say, I am a fan of your facial hair is striking, and I very much enjoy looking deep into it throughout the entire interview. No, that's a great look you've cultivated, man. I dig it. His name's Daniel Henning. He's a great guy. Just what a great guy. Check out his book, Alec Guinness Hated Star Wars, or How I Became a Famous Star Wars Fan. And there's so much more in there about your experiences on the set of The Black Stallion and everything else that led up to that infamous meeting between yourself and Sir Alec Guinness. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story story with us here for the first time. You're doing an interview about this, and I'm really honored that Rebel Force Radio is the place.
Well, it's truly my pleasure. I want to mention, by the way, the Kindle version of the book has the autograph, and it has, picture of me dressed as Luke Skywalker with George Takei. It has,
oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. It has a picture of me with Francis Ford Coppola on the set of The Black Stallion. Like there's all kinds of really fun pictures. There's like 25 color pictures in it. So it's kind of a fun thing to look at on the Kindle because you can see that stuff.
Well, that's awesome.
I'm so glad to be able to give you this interview and to tell this story to you. It's a story I've kept, for decades and not really told. So I'm thrilled that you guys gave me this opportunity.
Wow, we loved it. We loved hearing about it. If you want to hear more, the book is Alec Guinness Hated Star Wars, How I Became a Famous Star Wars Fan. Available as an audiobook or, as Daniel just said, on Kindle with some cool photos and things that you can see up close. So awesome. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank
I would
you.
say
Thank
may the
you.
force be with you, but I wouldn't want you to,
I think it is. Oh, I think it very much is with me. I think he left it with me somehow.
Yeah, okay. That's good. That's all he left you with. Thanks again. DanielHenning.net also is the website. If people want more information about this guy, great guy, Daniel Henning. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. Real pleasure. Thank you.
You must contact me.
Play back the entire message.
What message? Message after the message.
The Emperor commands you to make contact with him. It's a trick. Send no reply.
Hey, chat, gentlemen. This is Kurt from Redding, California. I was wandering around the Dune Sea of Death Valley last night, listening to Galactic Empire, and I had a Force vision about Kenobi coming up here. I think we're going to see Cal Kestis, and it might not just be a quick cameo. Cal has plenty of experience fighting Inquisitors, and a chance encounter between Cal and Obi-Wan on Tatooine might be a great vehicle for exposition to bring casual fans up to speed. Plus, what better way for poor old Obi-Wan to snap out of his depression than to provide some good old-fashioned Jedi Master mentorship to a semi-directionless would-be Jedi Knight, huh? They've already teased us by showing us a BD droid in the Book of Boba Fett, and maybe this explains the seemingly nonsensical delay with the Galaxy's Edge Cal Kestis Legacy lightsaber that was supposed to come out last fall. I've been waiting on that thing for frickin' ever. Anyway, guys, just a theory. I cannot wait for Clone Wars flashbacks and Qui-Gon Force Ghosts. And even though I definitely am an OT baby, the prequels have really grown on me over the years, and I cannot wait to see Ewan as Obi-Wan again. One more prediction. The final post-credit teaser will involve Ezra, Thrawn, or both. Keep up the great work, and may the Force be with you.
The final post-credit teaser, making an assumption that that's a thing now. I think we've only seen that once. We saw that with the Book of Boba Fett. We didn't see any kind of...
Saw it twice. Saw it in Mandalorian too.
Mandalorian,
which actually set up the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh yeah, but that was the only one. When did we ever see it again? That's the one I was thinking about.
Well, at the end of the Book of Boba Fett, we saw Cobb Vanth soaking away in the Bacta tank.
That's right. That's right. You know, I forgot about it because it didn't really set up another series. It set up a continuation of Book of Boba Fett. But yeah, that's right. So it is. I guess it is a thing. They've done it twice. All right. He dropped a number of names. I mean, one name in particular is Cal Kestis. What is it? What is the game? Fallen Order? Is that what it is?
Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this kid, the redheaded kid.
Yeah, yeah. What a great game. What a great game. Definitely in my top 3 all-time Star Wars video games. And just one of the best video games I ever played in my life, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Cal was played by Dominic Monaghan. No, Cameron Monaghan. Dominic Monaghan is a different actor.
Yeah.
Cameron
he's a hobbit.
Monaghan.
This guy's...
Yeah. And he also, I think... Cameron went to school in Chicago for a period of time. He might have gone to college here. I remember him saying something at Star Wars Celebration Chicago about his familiarity with the area. There's big news coming up for Jedi Fallen Order. It looks like there'll be a panel along with the trailer that will debut for the sequel game at Star Wars Celebration.
That might be more reason why there's a delay in the production of the lightsaber collectible at Galaxy's Edge. It may not have anything to do with Kenobi, but the fact that they knew that there was a sequel to the game coming out.
I believe that the Cal Kestis lightsaber hilt, which will soon be available for purchase, that won some fan poll a couple of years ago.
Oh,
That
so
was done by
choose our
Disney,
next
like-
saber hilt.
Yeah, it was one of those things. And so it won a big poll. Now, obviously, the timing with the potential announcement of Jedi Fallen Order 2 in just a couple of months is great with the release of this lightsaber. I know Cameron Monaghan was hanging out at Galaxy's Edge looking at the saber, doing photo ops with it and everything just recently. But I don't believe that any of this hype is in place to pump up an appearance by his character in the Kenobi show.
Yeah.
While I think it would be cool to see, I think it's a stretch. Because obviously Cal Kestis, he's the star of Jedi Fallen Order. In the Kenobi show, he would definitely be in the background. We've heard no news about Cameron Monaghan being part of the cast for Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
But, there might be some surprises in there. Obviously, we may not have heard about every cast member that's going to appear on the show. But if he did appear, it would probably just be a quick cameo or some sort of background thing. I don't think he would. Now, there is a rumor out there that the Inquisitors are hunting a Jedi on the run from Order 66, and they hunt this Jedi to Tatooine.
Right.
And in the Kenobi trailer, you hear Kenobi saying, "We've lost. They've won. It's stay hidden." And we were talking in the trailer review show, well, who is he talking to? Who is he saying stay hidden to? Is he talking to himself? Is he talking to somebody? Maybe he's talking.
I thought it was a little self-talk.
Jedi.
That's kind of
It could be. It could be.
like
It could
he gets up every morning, he looks in the mirror when he's not shaving.
Yeah.
Stay hidden. Ugh.
Yeah, just remember, yeah, don't use your force powers out in public or anything like that.
Right.
And keep that saber locked up. But that's a rumor that's been floating around the show, is that a Jedi will be on the run and the Inquisitors will hunt this Jedi down to Tatooine, and the Jedi will be searching for Kenobi. And Ben meets with this Jedi that's on the run. I mean, you could say this is a spoiler. This is just some rumor I heard somewhere. I can't even tell you where I heard this.
Rumor alert. Rumor alert.
So the Jedi tracks down Kenobi. Kenobi says stay hidden. And apparently while hunting this Jedi on the run, the Inquisitors have a close call with the Lars family, or maybe the homestead itself, just too close to Luke Skywalker for Kenobi's comfort.
Yeah.
And so part of the rumor said that Kenobi would then take Luke and take him off planet, maybe. I don't see that happening with the series at all. Nope, yeah. I do not see. But Kenobi may then go off planet to draw the Inquisitors away from Tatooine.
That's more along the lines what I'm thinking. Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously the script was rehauled back in early 2020. And that's when I believe Hayden was added to the mix. Now, I think last time we were talking about this, trying to figure out a timeline, I had incorrectly recalled that Kathleen Kennedy announced that Hayden was going to be in the Kenobi show at that same D23 panel where she announced the show and brought Ewan out on stage and everything.
Yes.
That's not the case. Kathy didn't announce Hayden's involvement in the Kenobi series until that late 2020 Investors Day blowout, where they announced all the series that are coming, the Kenobi. Then she laid down that information that Hayden was going to be on the show, and it was going to be,
and that's
the
rematch of the century, right?
Yeah,
right,
the
right,
rematch.
yeah.
That's where that comes from, late 2020. So when Kathleen Kennedy brought Ewan McGregor out on stage at D23 summer 2019. I believe that was with the former premise of a Ben and Luke, or Obi-Wan and Luke adventure, the lone wolf and cub thing, and Darth Maul hunting them. And then that's when in late 2019, Filoni and crew came forward, turned in notes saying this is too much like what we're doing with The Mandalorian, and especially the Mandalorian episodes that show up in the Book of Boba Fett. And we think you should go for broke and replace Maul with Vader.
Yeah, let's just do it.
That's how I believe it all went down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Cal Kestis fitting into this story, a story about the rematch of Vader and Kenobi, a show that is rumored to have flashbacks of Obi-Wan and Anakin in the Clone Wars era. Yeah. Where are you going to find any time to slot in a Cal Kestis, who is the star of his own story in the video games? I don't see the crossover happening. Do I see the crossover happening maybe down the road? Yeah, but I don't think Kenobi is going to be the place, unless, of course, Cal is the Jedi on the run, who the Inquisitors are hunting down, and he goes to Tatooine and talks to Obi-Wan. But I don't think that's the case.
The other thing, you know, and some may say this is a somewhat cynical kind of commercial way of looking at this, but look, if you've got a game franchise that relies on a Cal Kestis, you might want to just kind of keep that character's future open so that you can continue this story and not wrap it up into something Obi-Wan. So I kind of feel that there might be a need to kind of compartmentalize some of this stuff so that you can keep your Cal Kestis and that story, you know, going on over here, do your Obi-Wan and Vader thing over there. Otherwise, when it becomes so intertwined. And Jim, I do remember though, you know, when Bad Batch premiered, and you had that opening sequence with the Jedi at the moment of Order 66. Cal Kestis was one of the first, you know, it ended up being Kanan Jarrus, but that was who I actually thought, that's actually who I thought that it was when that happened. Yeah. So we've already seen that kind of escaped Jedi thing play out in Bad Batch. So I don't know. We'll see. But I'm definitely in the camp of something gets a little too close to the homestead, a little too close to Luke, and Obi-Wan needs to create some sort of diversion, and what better diversion than he himself, you know, the lost master of Darth Vader. I mean, if that's not going to get the Empire's attention, I don't know what will.
Right. So, well, we'll see how it all plays out. Cal Kestis, that would be interesting if he showed up in Kenobi. I just think that's sort of a long shot and a stretch, but I do not fault our caller for speculating in that direction. No. I love all kind of crazy speculation that brings in different characters from different parts of the Star Wars map, bring them together. I love stuff like that. So nothing wrong with that speculation. I just personally don't think it's going to happen.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news. Come closer, I have good news.
All right, let's check in with some headlines here. We're going to keep it all things
Kenobi!
But first, a message from Obi-Wan Kenobi actor Ewan McGregor.
Hello, Star Wars fans. Thank you for all your incredible support and response to Obi-Wan Kenobi. I have some important news. Our premiere date is moving just a couple of days from Wednesday to Friday, May the 27th. But here's the exciting part. The first 2 episodes will premiere together. So make sure you tune in to both episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi, streaming Friday, May the 27th, exclusively on Disney+.
So there you have it. That was unexpected. The Kenobi premiere is going to be moved 2 days to Friday, May 27th. Now, that's probably to accommodate some big whoop-de-doo at Star Wars Celebration, like a red carpet event or a premiere or something like that. But there you have it. We're going to be watching Kenobi together in Anaheim on Friday, May 27th. It'll actually be Thursday late night because the episode should drop around midnight LA time, late night Thursday going into Friday. Or I don't know, maybe they're going to sit on the episode until midday Friday and introduce it to an audience at Star Wars Celebration. We have no way of knowing at this time until more information comes out from the convention itself. But we'll be watching it as soon as it drops, wherever it drops. And hopefully following it up then with an after show on the road. That'll be a lot of fun. Speaking of Ewan McGregor and Obi-Wan Kenobi, we have some interview highlights from a recent interview that McGregor did with Entertainment Weekly. And Jason, he talks about the impact the reunion with Hayden Christensen had on him. And I thought it was some really interesting comments.
Jim, one of the things I did pick up on in some of the behind the scenes features that we'd been treated with back behind the scenes of episodes 2 and episodes 3, there did seem to be a real friendship that developed between Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor. Now, we just spoke with Daniel Logan on last week's episode, and I do think that Ewan McGregor is one of those guys it's real easy to get along with. I think he's kind of a people person, and certainly Daniel Logan got on with him, and Ewan McGregor made some overtures to make Daniel's experience on the set a pleasant one and all of that. But Ewan and Hayden worked together so much, especially when you just consider the final duel. They started rehearsing that before they started doing anything in front of the cameras for episode 3. That duel was the centerpiece of that movie. So there was a lot riding on that relationship. There was a lot riding on that scene in particular, plus all the stuff they did obviously before that in episode 2. So it's no surprise to me when you hear these clips that we're going to be playing that Ewan was very much looking forward to being back with Hayden again.
Yeah, he does talk about that in this interview with Entertainment Weekly. He also gives us some insight into what we can expect from the Kenobi series on a whole, including his character, Obi-Wan Kenobi, naturally. And Ewan talks a little bit about where Obi-Wan's head is at when the series begins.
So we find Obi-Wan at the beginning of our story rather broken and faithless and beaten, somewhat given up. Well, he's different because of what's happened at the end of episode 3 with the Jedi, with Order 66 and the Jedi Order being slaughtered and everyone who survived going into hiding after dealing with his personal failure with Anakin, that he feels that the responsibility that he allowed Anakin to be tempted over to the dark side, and that he wasn't able to stop that, and that his teaching wasn't strong enough to be able to protect Anakin from that. I think weighs obviously very heavily on him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
that makes sense.
We're going to see, I think, a lot of the aftermath of that guilt. And it's going to connect because, we didn't really get to see a whole lot of that. We got to see some of the shock, the outrage, that Obi-Wan had towards Anakin and his fall to the dark side, but we didn't get to see a lot of the aftershocks. And I think this is where we're going to see some of that emotional toll, losing a brother, in such a way that he did with Anakin, the toll that it can take. So I'm excited to see a little bit more of that emotional, so that when we see Sir Alec Guinness that we were just talking about in episode 4 saying, he's the best pilot in the galaxy, cunning warrior, and he was a good friend, that there's a lot of weight, emotional weight there. And so I think this is going to help connect all that stuff together.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the character moments that we get with Ben in this show. And I hope we're calling him Ben. I hope he has fully embraced that alias, where he is Ben. He's just not that weird old wizard. Like, people do know him by name and stuff.
Yeah, because Luke says, I wonder if he means old Ben. So obviously he's been using that moniker for a while.
Yeah.
At that point.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to see those character moments, the fallout from his failure, because it all gets set up at the end of the duel on Mustafar, where he says, I failed you. I have failed you. And he is taking full responsibility for that. He is totally accountable for what he believes was his failure, his inability to carry on with Qui-Gon Jinn's final wishes. He was left with Anakin. It was nothing that Obi-Wan ever desired. That's the Force really working in bizarre ways.
Right.
All of a sudden, this pathetic life form is now his responsibility. Right. And that's hard on Ben, on Obi-Wan. That's a tough thing that have happened. And not only is it just any kid, it's who they believe could be the chosen one from these prophecies. So that there was a huge amount of pressure being placed on him at a young age. He was only his late 20s, I guess, when or was he even that old? In the Phantom Menace, is he supposed to be like 29
in
19?
Phantom Menace? I think he's supposed to be more like early 20s in Phantom Menace.
Early 20s, maybe.
I think, yeah.
So, yeah, that surprises me. I haven't really locked down Obi-Wan's age.
Man, age in Star Wars is a tricky thing.
He's still a young man who grew up in a sheltered existence in this temple. What does he know about raising kids? And so he has this responsibility with Anakin, and it was more than he can handle. And he knew it. He knew it for a long time that Anakin was a handful. And then at the end there, he realizes maybe there were things he could have done to stop Anakin's slide to the dark side, and it's too late for all that. So he just chalks it all up as failure and admits it to Anakin and comes clean. He accepts total responsibility. So we're going to see now what life is like for Obi-Wan Kenobi in the wake of all of that failure. Yeah. And it's not going to be pretty. And to me, that lines up exactly with where his character's head should be and where he needs to be at the beginning of this series. He's wallowing in failure, and his faith has taken a total shock to the system because the so-called chosen one didn't live up to the prophecy. So that probably did a lot to insert doubt into Obi-Wan's head as well. And he's trying to connect with the spirit of Qui-Gon. Something tells me that's not going to really be going all that smoothly. And
he's going to be feeling, I think, very cut off. And what is the toll of being completely cut off from everything you ever knew to be true?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be huge. Yoda is obviously far, far older than Obi-Wan Kenobi and has had a lot more life experience. So he's probably better equipped at handling the isolation, I would say, than Obi-Wan. So it is going to be, I think, a real venture into his mind, his psyche. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. But but it doesn't stop there.
It doesn't stop there, Jason.
No.
But it doesn't stop there. So we talked a little bit about Obi-Wan, the character. Let's talk about Ewan McGregor, the actor, and get his take on what it was like to return to the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi after all these years.
It's odd to come back to something after such a long period of time. We made the last film in 2003, and I guess it was early last year. I went down to do some casting, and they wanted to do screen tests with some young actors. We were on the Mandalorian set, I think. It was a weekend, and they were not shooting, so we'd used a bit of their set, and it was their, I think, mainly the Mandalorian crew. But I walked out, I went into my dressing room, and there was some random Jedi stuff, not stuff that I'd worn in the other films, but just based on or some Jedi type clothing, and I put it on, and it just felt it felt great. It felt important, and it felt special, and I was happy. But it wasn't really till I walked out onto the stage, and someone said, "Okay, ready," and I've got my line. Obviously I've got my role, but the young actors I'm reading with maybe don't have their role. So I've got my page. I'm just making sure I know my lines, because I don't want to screw up my lines for their screen test, their camera test. And I was walking out, and I sort of looked up, and I was aware suddenly of the crew, who are the Mandalorian crew, but looking at me coming in Obi-Wan's costume, and I could feel like that sort of excitement running through. It was exciting. It was cool.
You hear that and you think about when Ewan was on the set of the prequels and a legacy character would come onto set and there would be that hush. I remember them talking, and when Hayden got in the Vader costume for the first time on the set of episode 3, and there was that moment, or there was that moment when R2 rolled onto the set for the first time, or 3PO, Anthony Daniels was, clad in the golden costume. Now Ewan is experiencing what it's like to be one of those legacy actors in a way. So he's on the set with these folks that, some of them probably grew up with, with the prequel films and his Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That's interesting. I think there was even the impact back in the day when Ewan McGregor walked out on the set in the Kenobi robes.
Probably.
People stopped in. They would stop and look at him. Oh, my God, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think that was almost instant. That wasn't anything he really had to build himself up into. And I seem to recall moments from documentaries shot during the prequel era and webisodes or whatever. Behind the scenes webisodes, and with Ewan McGregor trying on the Obi-Wan stuff for the first time and looking in the mirror and saying, "I am Obi-Wan" and all that. So it was impactful for him back then. And now with the legacy attached to it, I think it means so much more to him.
Yeah.
And that's great because, Ewan would slog on the prequels every once in a while in the press back in the day, and we've talked about all that in the past. But I think Star Wars always held a very special place in his heart, and it happened at a time when he was a young actor, and it was early in his career. And so now things have kind of come full circle, and it's a similar situation then with Hayden Christensen, as you were talking about earlier in the show, the chemistry between these two guys and the connection between the two of them. It's also the shared history they have.
Right.
And so when you put them on the set now, these are two guys who are all of a sudden, they're emerging from a time machine, and they're being thrown back a couple of decades ago. And so that's a trip that only the two of them can really understand. And they probably bond like crazy over stuff like that.
Yes.
And so Ewan does talk about the reunion with Hayden, and he has a bunch of great things to say about Hayden Christensen and working with Hayden. But it all starts off with Ewan talking about what it was like to see Hayden return to the set, to return to Star Wars, and just sort of the feelings that Ewan got looking at Hayden as he was returning to the soundstage to play the iconic roles that he made famous.
Well, it was sort of spine-tingling. It was amazing. But it was just amazing to see Hayden, full stop. I mean, I'm so close with him. We've stayed in touch over the years, but we haven't seen each other for a long time. And as it got closer and closer to the shoot, and once Hayden was on board, he was in LA and we met. It was during the lockdown, and we met in Santa Monica in a park, and we both walked along with our masks on outdoors, and we had this long catch up. It was so lovely. Like it just been years since we actually saw each other, not for any reason other than just, just locations. And I was here and he was in Canada. But I love him so much, and we have a very special bond of making two of those first three films together. And it was an important. It was so important for both of us, for our careers and for who we are. And so we had just so much to catch up on, life stuff and where we're at, and it was so lovely to see him again. And then to be on set with him again was just odd. It was like time hadn't happened or something. I looked across at him, and there's we're on a set, and I look over at him. He's Anakin now. I'm Obi-Wan now, and it's like nothing had happened. Like I didn't see any age on his face. I just felt like we just like the period of time between episode 3 and now just didn't exist or something. It was so peculiar.
I like so much, and I know that the prequels have their detractors. And look, we've sounded off about the things we love and the things we don't love so much about the prequels. But I will say, and we've mentioned this many times, that they age quite well. They're aging very well. And I, for one, am so happy to see them with something like Kenobi cemented and given sort of the weight that I think that they deserve. I really think that this, they're now nostalgia. They're now legacy. They're now they've graduated into that next level, and I just think it's super exciting, and I'm so happy for them.
I was so bummed out in 1999 when all that backlash happened toward The Phantom Menace, because I had really looked forward to that film. Obviously, 16 years. Every time a movie would come out that had good special effects, we would say, me and my friends, would be like, all right, the technology is caught up to George Lucas's imagination. He must be thinking of making new Star Wars films now, because that was always the rap about George. It'd be like, yeah, when the technology catches up with my imagination, then we'll talk. It was like always
such a good excuse, because how are we ever going to know when? We're not in George's head. God knows what's in his imagination.
Right. I mean, he's inventing the technology as he's sitting there. And usually the guy getting those quotes was our pal Dan Madsen, sitting up in George's office at Skywalker Ranch, probably terrified most of the time. It's like, I'll make them when I make them, kid.
Let me tell you about Tucker, man in his dream here.
Oh, Tucker. You got a few pages in your little magazine for that? But yeah, I just derailed myself there, thinking about the technology and all of that stuff. I was talking about being sad about the way that the Phantom Menace was received. Yeah, and nowadays when I look at it, I say to myself, well, thank God the Phantom Menace wasn't released today. I think the backlash was bad in '99. I mean, my God, nowadays it would just be, it would be a bloodbath. It would be a vicious bloodbath. And that's kind of unfortunate, because like I said, I've sort of embraced this just enjoy Star Wars motto. And because I can be as critical about Star Wars as anyone else. I mean, and anyone who listens to the show knows I've gone on rants about everything under the sun, even George Lucas stuff. Maybe it's just, maybe I'm just getting older. But I want all this fussing and cussing to end, and can't we just enjoy Star Wars, Jason? Can't we just enjoy it? And I think back to those times in '99. I just think people are being so harsh. And I would even say to my wife, I'd be like, I don't get it. Why are people hating on this thing so much? I just love it. And she's like, that's all that matters.
That's right.
Love it. That's right. Okay, I'll roll with that as I go out the door to see it for my 500th time. But I saw The Phantom Menace 12 times in the theater.
Wow.
I was keeping track. Because I never kept track like Daniel Henning did. I never kept track of how many times I saw Star Wars as a kid. I just know it was a buttload of times. And I also know that I went to the theater a whole ton of times and saw it more than once in an afternoon.
Now, did you see it in that neighborhood theater there in your
No, I wasn't living in this part of
okay, all right,
of the Chicago area.
Jimmy Mack has this really quaint movie theater, right? I mean, he can walk to it. I'm telling you, Jimmy Mack, you don't know this. He lives in Mayberry. He lives in the Chicago suburb version of Mayberry. It's this beautiful little town. Yeah. But so like Daniel was saying, he could just walk to the movie theater. That changes things dramatically for you.
Yes, and the theater, though, that you do bring up in the neighborhood, you know, my son Dylan has been an aspiring filmmaker ever since he first fell in love with movies. And he always thought, you know, once he's a big famous film director, it would be cool if his bio said that the first job he ever had was working in the neighborhood movie theater.
Oh, it's perfect.
You know, the theater in his neighborhood. So he sought out a job at the movie theater and worked there for a couple of summers. And I think it was the constantly having the smell of popcorn on his clothes kind of made him then shift industries, and now he's working at the comic book shop. But you know, is he my son or what? You know,
right? I would say
I need a career change from the film industry. I'm going to go into comic books now, and that also is in our neighborhood there, right? You know, Main Street, USA, man.
Got it all right
so
there.
You can just walk to that, and so that will be the second line in his biography. And that's always nice, though, because if there's cool Star Wars stuff that comes into the store, I always get the heads up. And so
that's good.
Yeah, insider information. Yeah.
Stuff comes in on consignment or whatever to resell, and
yeah. Somebody brought in a whole ton of the vintage Marvels, and so the shop lined the walls with all of the comics. I'm like, that's a cool video. So I took out my phone, and the glare of the lights onto the they have them wrapped in the plastic with a white board in the back.
Sure, the back.
So the bag was reflecting the light so much I couldn't get a good shot of it. So I asked Dylan to turn off the lights so I could just run around the store with the camera. And every time we did it that afternoon, you know, somebody would come walking in, and so I had to.
Why are the lights off? Is the shop open?
Yeah. And Dylan didn't want me running around the store shooting video when customers were in there, and then he just got irritated with me altogether.
You embarrassed
asked
him.
me to leave. He said, "Dad, please leave the store." So
wow,
you're kicking me out. You're kicking me out. And so off I went.
You're kicking me out. Oh man, these full circle moments, amazing.
Yeah, and then the next time I went back, I'm like, well, maybe I could shoot video some other day. I went back there, and they sold the collection. The power of Star Wars. You put that up on the wall, it's not going to last long. So somebody bought up every Marvel Star Wars they had. It was in there for like a week.
All right. Let's take a jaunt over into the pop culture.
Rebel Force Radio.
You've already made that Star Wars reference.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars parody.
All right, Star Wars and pop culture, where we bring you up to speed with Star Wars references happening outside the galaxy far, far away. And Jim, you always bring us great stuff. What do you got for us this week?
Well, this week is kind of appropriate. We were told about some clips from the MTV vaults of Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters. And it's a really sad week for Foo Fighter fans.
Yeah.
Their drummer Taylor Hawkins passed away. Shockingly, Taylor Hawkins passed away. Great drummer. What a talent. He rose to rock and roll fame as the drummer for the Alanis Morissette Band, and then the drummer for Foo Fighters departed about 2 or 3 years into their existence, and Taylor made the call to Dave Grohl, the leader of the band, former Nirvana drummer Dave Grohl. Foo Fighters is his band, and while Dave is a drummer, he also plays guitar, and he's a front man and everything in Foo Fighters, so he's not always behind the kit, and you need a damn good drummer to carry on the beats of Dave Grohl. So Taylor Hawkins was the guy, and he was just a great guy by all accounts. He was only 50 years old. He leaves behind a family. It's a really, really sad story. Another rock and roll casualty. We've seen them happen over the decades, time and time again, where great talent gets taken away from us at way too young of an age. But I just want to say R.I.P. Taylor Hawkins. And, I love the Foo Fighters. I've seen them live and everything. I'm not the world's biggest fan. My heart goes out to his family and all the big, huge super fans of Foo Fighters. Everyone knows Foo Fighters. I mean, they get played on the radio all the time. They show up at award shows. They were supposed to be at the Grammys. That's just coming up here in a few days. And they have to cancel their tour. But here's Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl in this vintage clip of Dave Grohl from MTV's talking about George Lucas and Star Wars. And like I said, Dave from Baltimore gave me the tip about these clips, and we're happy to bring them to you here on Rebel Force Radio this week. The first clip is of Dave Grohl, and this has been a kind of a theme in the show. We talked about this a little bit with Daniel Henning earlier in the Cantina, about what it was like for us original trilogy generation kids to go see Star Wars in the theaters in the 70s. And Dave Grohl shares some memories.
I was a Star Wars fanatic, man. Me and my friend Johnny Park used to go to the movie theater, pay to get into the 11 o'clock show and hide under the seats and watch the movie over and over and over again. I swear to God, before I was 13 years old, I think I saw that movie 100 times. No joking. I saw it so many times. I saw it so many times that before I'd go to sleep at night, if I couldn't go to sleep, I would replay the movie scene by scene in my head. And then I got action figures and all that. But I mean, George Lucas, it's like, you can't think of that guy without thinking of Star Wars. And Star Wars was the movie of the 70s. No question. Nothing could touch it.
I like that idea of if you can't sleep, don't count sheep. Just play back Star Wars in your head. I like that. I like that.
You've never done that? Have you ever played the movie back in your head?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I used to reenact it for my family on holidays. I would do like a one-man Return of the Jedi from... Yeah, I had every line of that movie memorized at one point.
What I would give for a video of that. Maybe you can bring that back, that little performance art of your history. You can bring that back up at the Rooftop Bash.
Maybe. I remember doing my Jabba because I would lay, with my legs like wrapped together to make like a tail. It's all coming back to me now. Bo shooter.
Well, I want you to workshop this a little bit, and I think we might be able to take this on the road.
I got nothing on Charlie, the actual one-man Star Wars guy. He does it much better than I do, but
he's back. He's back out on the road.
Oh, good. Good.
Charlie Ross, what a good guy.
Really nice
good guy to enjoy a cold Guinness with, that's for sure.
No doubt.
But yeah, Dave Grohl, he said he saw Star Wars 100 times. I wonder if Sir Alec Guinness ever told him to stop seeing it.
Someday you'll be a famous rock and roller. You won't have time for Star Wars.
The star shells of madness in his eyes.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that.
It sounds like a Foo Fighters song title. Star Shells of Madness.
Really. So I have one more clip from Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters. He talks about how important Star Wars was to the Star Wars generation, the original trilogy kids.
I think by making Star Wars, he introduced a whole new level of fantasy to film. Like he just raised the bar so high that you were taken to another galaxy and you believed it the whole time. You were in there. You didn't question the film. You didn't think, this is fake. That's stupid. There's no such thing as laser guns. You were like, oh my God, that guy just got his head blown off by a laser. I mean, he made it a part of your life, really. He expanded everyone's sense of imagination or fantasy. And that's not easy to do.
No, it's not easy to do, to create almost an instant connection to a whole new universe, a whole new galaxy like he did. And you get plopped down in the middle of it. And Jim, we've talked about it many times. Everyone, people have written about it. The used universe, the iconic nature of the characters that he created, where they sort of telegraphed their personalities by the way they looked in a lot of ways. But then he would flip it on you. George wasn't subtle. And then all of a sudden he creates this diminutive Jedi master that you would never assume was a great warrior. So he kept it fresh, but for the most part, George wasn't subtle in terms of the bad guys looked like bad guys. The good guys looked like good guys. And that became a way for you to sort of find familiarity in this universe. But at the same time, it was so strange. Luke gives a line in Empire Strikes Back, which I love, when on Dagobah, and he says, "Is something familiar about this place?" And that was something I always wish George would have followed up on a little bit. Like, was Baby Luke on Dagobah? Might we see that in Kenobi? I don't know. But there was something familiar. I think what Dave's talking about, there was something familiar about the galaxy far, far away, but we'd never been there before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one thing to do this incredible world building and character development and build a story and make a melting pot of mythology and the history of storytelling and really make an educated film that appeals to all generations. I mean, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But then making all those worlds so believable, something that we bought, like, yeah, we can accept that. We can accept that and come up with our own sort of evaluation of what like physics are in the Star Wars universe and all of that. You can justify anything in Star Wars if you want to. And that's not the easiest thing to do, and nor is that sort of thing accessible with other storytelling and franchises. Some do it right, like Star Wars, but I say for the most part, most don't. And that could be any story, any series, any film. So hats off to Dave Grohl, R.I.P. Taylor Hawkins. Great talent. He will be missed. But Dave Grohl, he seems like just such a great guy. And I was really surprised to hear what a big Star Wars fan he is. So thank you, Dave from Baltimore, for sending that clip. If you have a clip you'd like to send to us for Star Wars and pop culture, send it to show@rebelforceradio.com. Subject line, pop culture.
Chewie, get us out of here!
Oh, it's going to wrap things up for us this week. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Huge thanks to Daniel Henning, our special guest in the Cantina. Great story. Wow. And you heard it. Yeah. You heard it here first on Rebel Force Radio. He's never been interviewed about this before. So check out his book if you want to hear more details and not just about that story, but also about his life as an actor. And so anyway, great hearing from him. Also, big thanks to our sponsor this week, Raycon. Thanks very much for your support of Rebel Force Radio. If you want more Rebel Force Radio in your life, there's no better way to get it than through Patreon. That's right. Go over to rebelforceradio.com. That's the website. And click on the Patreon banner. You see the little... You see it over there in the corner. You click on that and boom, you get taken over and you can pick a level that fits your financial situation. Everything from $1. I mean, $1 a month. And it gets you great benefits. We just put the RFR Bash tickets on sale, but they went on sale first to Rebel Force Radio Patreon supporters at all levels. So for $1, you got early access to the Rooftop Bash. But it doesn't stop there. You got podcasts that you can't just subscribe to on your podcatcher of choice. No, you got to get them through the Patreon. Things like RFR Q&A, the Babu Freaks, Clone Wars Declassified, Remastered, Filoni Files, archived highlights, and so much more. That's all available when you become a Patreon. And if you become an RFR VIP, you get to co-host your own episode of RFR Q&A with Jimmy Mack. And very rarely, if it's about Star Trek, me.
Yeah, that's right.
And also, like I say, you get to jump to the head of the queue at things like the RFR Kickoff Bash when we put tickets on sale, or if we're doing one of our live call-in after shows. If you identify yourself to our call screener as being a Patreon member, we get you to the head of the line there. That's always good. And all those details are at rebelforceradio.com. Click on Patreon, or you can go to patreon.com/rebelforceradio. Don't forget about our YouTube channel. Costs you nothing. youtube.com/rebelforceradio. Got all kinds of content over there. We were talking about how long we've been doing this, now over 15 years. Well, a lot of those bits and interviews and parodies and things we've been doing over the years are available on YouTube. Check that out. Also, new full show audio gets released there. So you can kind of jump on, and it's sort of a premiere format. So you get to listen with other Rebel Force Radio fans if you want to, and listen to it as it drops. So please like and subscribe today. You can talk to us online through email, show@rebelforceradio.com, or the voicemail line, 708-320-1RFR. That's 708-320-1737. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check out our official website, rebelforceradio.com, for all things and everything Rebel Force Radio. But above all, if you want to support the show, please tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell the Star Wars fan in your life. You know, that guy or gal in the office that you know they like Star Wars, but maybe they haven't heard of Rebel Force Radio. Tell them that it's your favorite podcast and they should listen too. Please subscribe, and if your podcatcher of choice allows you to do such, please review Rebel Force Radio. We love to have the subscriptions. We love to have the reviews. Just one rule, please.
Make them good.
And we're streaming 24/7 on these podcatchers like Apple Podcasts, iHeart, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, Audible, Pandora, Samsung. Anywhere you can find podcasts, you'll find us right here at Rebel Force Radio. And you'll also find us here next week on RFR. So we'll see you next time. Love you all so much. For Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
promise never to see Star Wars again.